Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another exciting edition of the Knights of the Roundball Table. This is the show that brings some of the brightest minds from Bulls Twitter to discuss one of the greatest institutions on the face of the earth, the Chicago Bulls. So tonight's guest and Knights are two icons from Bulls on Tap. First of all, Buzz from Bulls on Tap, one of the founders of that great institution. It's great to see you, brother.
Hey, man. I'm really looking forward to talking some Bulls basketball with you. And, just talking about how this team is within striking distance, like you said before we started going live here. I'm excited. Let's do it.
It's a night of celebration, absolutely, in this night's meeting. And also, longtime participant on the Chicago Bullseye and now a key member of the Bulls on Tap team at Bull Scripted, Keith Franz. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I mean, I get to see Buzz's beautiful face 2 nights in a row, get to have a conversation with you for the first time in a couple of months. Last time we talked, I don't think anybody thought Zach LaVine was an all-star, and now I don't think that's even really a question.
Yes, Keith has been on the Knights and Roundball Table before. This is Buzz's first go-around, but hopefully the first in many. So let me call to order. Hear ye. I call the Knights of the Roundball Table to order. And also want to thank our producer, Steven Johnson. So let's hit the ground running with question number 1.
Issue number 1, should the Bulls trade Thad Young? Thad Young has played some incredible basketball this year. He's in the second year of a 3-year contract. Some have argued that we should trade Thad Young for a late number 1. I would counter that trading Thad Young would send this team into a tailspin and hinder the development of the young players already on the roster. It's the question of the year. Will they trade Thad Young before trade deadline, or will they keep him and potentially will realize playoff glories?
We'll start with you, Buzz. Would you trade Thad Young for a late number 1 or demand more from that contender? If they refuse, then they can pound sand. What say you?
If the deal's good enough, yeah, I definitely trade him. I mean, I'm not going to go looking out to seek just to trade him. But if a deal came about that made sense for the opposing squad and the Bulls, and it was a first-round pick, then absolutely. I like Thad Young. I think he's been good for the team this year. Obviously, last year playing under Jim Boylan, inconsistent minutes equal inconsistent play. So this year he's been playing a lot better with consistent minutes. He's he's stepped in there because due to injury as well to our bigs that we've had to deal with. He's been getting a lot more minutes, but he's been great for the young guys, and he's been praised by some of the young guys this year too as a vet who has a good attitude, who shows up to work, that plays the game the right way. Obviously, once again, you didn't really hear that last year due to the circumstances. The only way I'd move him is if it was a good offer. I'm not going out trying to trade him, but if something came through, a good offer where it was, hey, a first-round pick and maybe this, then yeah, I would do it, no doubt. But again, I wouldn't seek it out.
That's a great answer. I think Paul Connor, our 4th night of this episode, has joined us. How you doing, Paul? Good to see you, brother.
I'm good. It's finally it's a good thing to talk with some of the wisest of all Bulls Nation.
Thank you. Well, you came to the wrong show.
What are you talking about the next show you're going to be on? I don't know.
We're just average and ordinary, but it's good to see you again, Paul. So the first question we were just debating with Buzz and Keith was whether or not Thad Young, should we trade him for a late first-round pick, or should we demand more? What say you?
I personally don't think the Bulls should trade him. I think the way that the Eastern Conference is set right now, unless you're getting some sort of haul that you just can't refuse, I think Thad Young should be kept. I think keeping him just sends a great message to the locker room that that they're in it. And if you look at the Eastern Conference right now, the way that it is, they're a game and a half out of third, and I think you and I talked, Fred, said if the Bulls won 4 of those games that they either had leads in, or they'll be second in the Eastern Conference right now. That's how bad the Eastern Conference is. So I just personally think that they should just go ahead and just keep them, and maybe look to add as opposed to subtract.
Keith, what do you think?
I think the situation that presents the Bulls with the Celtics having really big trade exceptions is interesting. The Bulls would be able to move Thad to their team and essentially not have to take Cat back for next year. So in the Celtics situation, if you're going to send me your first, you're currently struggling, you don't know where they're going to end up. Maybe you get a pick that's 15 to 20 instead of 21 to 30. In that situation, maybe you move that. They have a lot of young guys at the back end of their roster that they could send back to make the roster spots work. Then you're getting cap space for next offseason to bring in a different veteran without having to worry about that $6 million guarantee that has. You get that first, you get a young guy. And in the East, you still might be able to make the playoffs. So you might be able to double dip there with as bad as the East is. I agree with Paul's point, though. If you trade Thad, what message are you sending to this locker room? It's not a good one. It's we don't have much faith in anybody but Zach here, and the rest of you are probably on your way out as well. So we're starting to get the assets that we can for you before we focus on building around Zach.
Well, more importantly, what kind of message are you sending to Zach LaVine, who's called Thad Young his MVP, and you're sending him on his way? And let's be honest, Thad Young has been the second best player on his team for the vast majority of the season. I think he can make that argument quite convincingly. I think it's insane to just expect Zach to be happy with that move. And I don't think he will be happy with it. And he's got a year and a half left. We're going to build around Zach LaVine. Trading Thad Young, I think, would do potentially irreparable harm in keeping him for the long haul, because I think this team is not going to make the playoffs if you trade Thad Young. That's how important he has been to winning in every advanced metric I've seen. He's clearly had a massive impact on winning or losing. Just letting him go, who's replacing him? Like, he's at the 4 and the 5 with the injury to Laurie now, and the injury to Otto Porter Jr. He's probably our best two-way player.
What about the other guy that was injured?
Laurie Markkinen? Who are we talking about? What do you mean?
Thad plays the 4 and the 5. Who was the other guy that he covered for while he was injured?
Oh, you're talking about Wendell Carter Jr. Yeah, he did that very admirably and kept us alive during that period of time.
No, I mean, I'm making fun of you, but I am agreeing with your point. That versatility at the 4 and the 5 has saved us throughout this season in every situation, because we've been without both for extended periods. And whether we have neither or one or the other, and Thad's available, he covers both spots perfectly.
It's no secret what it does to the depth if Thad Young is moved. I mean, the depth is just terrible on this team to begin with, because none of them can stay healthy. Otto Porter Jr. is still hurt. I actually think Otto Porter Jr. left. I think he's out of the country. I think he's just doing his own thing somewhere. Maybe he bought Dunn Island, Fred, and he's just made it Otto Porter Island. Maybe that's what he did, and he's just gone now. So, and then you have Wendell, who cannot stay healthy. You have Lowry, who cannot stay healthy. And Fred, you and I have talked about this a million times. I'm a Lowry guy. I was a Lowry stan. But at this point, man, how do you keep defending it? So, yeah, I know how Thad is very important to this squad, and I'm not trying to hurt feelings, but this isn't the business of feelings. It's the business of winning ball games, and it's not the business of making the playoffs. It's the business of winning championships. You got to make the playoffs to win a championship, but I have that trust in AK right now, where I look at Thad Young as a role player. I don't think that Thad Young puts us over a hump by any means. So
hold on a second, Buzz. Is he not the second best player on this roster right now?
Right now, is he the second best player today?
Yes, he's the second best player on the team in terms of impacting winning. That's a fact.
Well, Today, yes, he is. But I'm looking at like next year after development of some young talent. I think he might be the 4th or 5th.
What Buzz is saying is Thad Young doesn't put us in contention with the Brooklyn Nets.
Right.
No, of course not.
Right.
And it's no hatred on Thad. I think he's great. I think he's a fundamental guy, more fundamental than I even realized before we had him here. but he's just not that guy to me. He doesn't move the needle. And
I'm not trying to argue that. I'm trying to argue that the guys that we have here, he is absolutely key for their development, because you know what helps development? Winning. Winning does. Getting to the playoffs, learning how to perform in the playoffs, which is completely different in the regular season. So we trade Thad Young, we're going to go right down the drain. We got 3+ defenders on this team. That's Garrett Temple, Wendell Carter Jr., and Thad Young. Nobody else is better than average defensively. You want to see a complete collapse of a team, that's going to occur when Thad Young goes. Look at how valuable he's been. So if you're fine with us, missing the playoffs and getting it into the lottery, I can, I understand that game plan, right?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
I would counter that if we're going to build around Zach LaVine, he needs to get in the playoffs this season. He needs to experience that, because we have to build around him, and it's not going to help for Zach LaVine to miss the playoffs yet again. He hasn't even played in the playoffs for his entire career.
I think that if he makes an all-star team, that helps that wound a little bit. And I think that if he could see the bigger picture, and if Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley decide that they're going to build around him, I think that heals that wound of Zach not making the playoffs. I don't want the Bulls to not make the playoffs, but I would not be upset if they did not. I predicted on Bulls on Tap with Keith here that Zach's going to be an all-star, Bulls miss the playoffs. That's the two things that I've said, and I consistently all year. There's just not enough consistent play throughout the team that I think that, with this play-in thing, I mean, it's different. I mean, I'm talking kind of old school shit.
Missing the playoffs in this East,
right,
and being 11th, that meaning being 11th or worse, it would be a catastrophe of epic proportions for us not to win, to at least get to that point. And it means that Zach LaVine has been not Zach LaVine. It means that we've traded probably Thad Young. So that's all I'm saying is, like, hey, what direction you want to go in? I understand your argument, but to me, the worst of all situations is, you trade Thad Young for a late first to Boston, who are only a stinking game and a half behind right now. You make them better. We get their late first, and what does that end up being? 24, 25, 23? That's where end of the rotation guys reside. That's where busts reside. Jimmy Butler is 1 in a million. For every Jimmy Butler, there's 20 guys that aren't going to be there. Paul, did you want to add something? I saw you wanted to jump in.
My only thing is, and I'll go back to my original point. What statement are you actually saying to your locker room if you actually start to trade some of these pieces? I get the whole notion of wanting to, trade that if you get a nice package, but also you got players on this roster like Zach and Kobe, even Larry to a degree, that never experienced winning. And I think for this group, in particular, they need to be able to stick together and see this out. We already know this year was going to be about development. Just let it develop. If they make the playoffs, great. But and then just kind of go for it. Any kind of changes in the off season. But I think right now, unless you get some sort of substantial offer for Thad Young, I think you keep him. I like I said, I think you just add. Not necessarily subtract. Let's
go around one more time as we wrap up this topic. I'll start with you, Buzz. Do you trade Thad Young for a late number 1 from the Celtics this year? You make that deal?
Oh, I mean, that was Keith that brought up the Celtics deal, but I mean, yeah, I mean, if it's like if Keith said, if it's a 15th through 20th pick in the draft, then it's I'm looking at it. I'm looking at trying to stockpile assets around Zach LaVine now. If that is my clear-cut chosen one, that's my superstar. And the track record of Arturas Karnisovas drafting, along with the organizations that Mark Eversley has been in, late draft picks seem to have hit for them. So I'm looking at that, and I'm like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I definitely make the trade for a first-round pick, no doubt about it. Because
it's 15 now. When they get that,
right.
It's going to be 23, and when they get Marcus Smart back.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, but if you look at Boston's roster, they're a little desperate too, man, because they don't really have a good big man on this roster as I'm going up and down. They have Tristan Thompson, so they might overpay because Danny Ainge might be panicking to do something, like this team has Jaylen Brown on it. It's got Kemba Walker. It's got Jason Tatum. I need to add somebody to complement these boys so they can get in here, win some damn ball games and get me into the playoffs and be a a force, you know, and I'm not saying Thad Young makes him a crazy force, but he improves that team. So Danny Ainge might overpay for him. But yeah, I mean, I would do it for first round pick. It sucked for the development for some of our guys here, but I'm looking at some of the guys that are going to be here or who probably aren't going to be here. And I'm like, I could live with it.
And Keith?
I mean, Arturas's track record is building through the middle of the draft. They got Michael Porter at 14. They could have had Donovan Mitchell at 13 before they traded him. Jokic is obviously another Jimmy Butler-like situation, one-hit wonder, probably not going to be duplicated in the second round. But they have preached retool, not rebuild, and they seem to have decided to build around Zach. If that wasn't the case, I don't think they select Patrick Williams at number 4. I think that was a clear indication that we feel we have a guy here in Zach that just needs the right pieces around him to be his best self. And, you know, you added one small piece who's going to be good. That's clear. He's still inconsistent at this point, but even just the addition of that and utilizing that in the right ways, and Garrett Temple being somewhat respectable on both ends of the floor, you've seen Zach take this extremely efficient leap. So maybe it's not worth it to trade Thad for a guy that might not play in your rotation. Is picking 14th that bad if you just missed the playoffs? We could still get lucky in the lottery, or you get that playoff experience, and then you're picking 15, 16. And you get a guy like Naismith, who, if Boston threw on top of a first pick, then maybe I'm intrigued.
Yeah, Paul?
The offer has to be substantial for me to trade Thad Young at this point. If they throw in a nice young player and their pick, I'll consider it.
Yeah, exactly. So I agree with what Keith said. I make the deal if they throw in Neesmith, who was their first-round pick this year, and their number 1 in 2021. I'm not doing it for their 2021 pick. It's not enough for a guy who's a 6th man of the year front runner. And if they don't like it, they can pound sand. We're 1.5 games behind them. We'll easily catch up to them with a far younger team. I can't wait. We're in a position of strength here. Don't fall for it, and don't trade just for a late number 1 for Thad Young. It's the biggest decision of the season, though, without a doubt, because it impacts our playoffs without a doubt. So let's go on to question number 2.
Issue number 2, who has been Zach's best teammate? Who is the best player Zach LaVine has played with for an extended period of time as a Bull? In a recent poll, Thad Young won the vote with 64.5%. Lauri Markkanen was second at 17.6%. Kobe White was third at 11.6%. Others received 6.4% of the votes. Bigger question is, how are the Bulls going to find another player to pair with the All-Star Zach LaVine?
Let's go on and ask Keith this question. Who, in your opinion, has been the best player Zach LaVine has played with in his time here for the Bulls?
I think with the added caveat of extended period in there, this is a really difficult question, because February, Otto Porter Jr. and Lauri Markkanen, you could take either one of those and probably say they're the best player that Zach LaVine has ever had. And I might even go as far as saying that Otto was dependent for Lauri and Zach's success in that period of February. So the answer without that caveat is Otto. But over an extended period, I think Thad Young in this stretch of this season is the best player that Zach LaVine has had alongside him in a Bulls jersey.
Paul, let's go to you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Keith. When you add the caveat in there of taking into consideration of injuries, if you didn't have injuries, I probably would have said Lauri Markkanen. But considering that Lauri can stay healthy and the inconsistency of Kobe White, yeah, I'm going to put Thad Young as probably the best teammate that Zach LaVine has ever played with as a member of the Bulls.
Buzz, what say you?
Man, that's a tough one. Maybe maybe Ryan Arcidiacono, Fred. I think he's been pretty good.
How dare you?
And at least he tries hard, man.
Oh.
But I guess I would have to go between, for an extended period amount of time where he got games in with somebody. I don't know, maybe Robin Lopez, maybe Thad Young. I guess, because I mean, you guys think about it. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but when Robin Lopez was here, I thought it was a pretty good time. I mean, it was a terrible time, really, but I thought he was a good vet for the team that performed pretty well. You know, I guess I would have to say him. Really, is either him or Thaddeus. Those are the only two because no one else can stay healthy. I mean, him and Dunn had some moments together, and talent wise, like you guys said, I mean, but he was often injured too. So it's got to be down between those two, and that's really sad. It really makes me upset. Like, you know, it's just not trying to say, you know, Robin Lopez isn't a fine NBA player, or Thaddeus Young isn't a fine NBA player, but this Zach LaVine has been steadily improving every year he's been here, and he has just not had a teammate that's even near his talent level. I mean, just it's not even near it, and it's just sad. That's why you see what the record has been. But again, we have to be optimistic. We have a new front office who I think respects and understands where we're at as a franchise. So hopefully you get somebody, but it'd be one of those two for me.
Yeah, and that was the point of this endeavor was to prove, my gosh, look at the guys that he's had with him. None of these guys have had extended periods where they've really even remotely approached Zach LaVine's all-star level. Lauri Markkanen had a great first year. He played 68 games, and Zach didn't play that much that season. And then the following 2 years, he played 50-ish games, and now he's at 14 this year. Thad Young, I think, has been absolutely fantastic this season on both ends of the court. But again, it's just this year. He wasn't that great last year. And Kobe White's been maddeningly inconsistent. So nobody's even approached Zach. You know, I don't think it's fair for people still to question Zach LaVine as a basketball player when he hasn't had one teammate remotely approach the level where he's at. So I think, you know, the answer is probably Thad Young, just based on what he's done this year. And now that we're going to trade him for, you know, future assets, I don't know. If I was in Zach's shoes, I would say, you know, pound sand to this organization, look for greener pastures down the road, but we'll see what the result will be. Let's move on to question number 3. Well, I did want to mention, let me redo this one. There is a large contingent of Lonzo Ball backers. He, like Lauri Markkanen, will be a restricted free agent at the end of this season. Please convince me that Lonzo Ball would be a great acquisition for the beloved Bull. Let's start out with you, Paul Connor.
If you're looking for a point guard that can defend, he would be your guy. I'm not a huge fan in terms of his offensive game, but he is a guy that can play the point guard efficiently if that's what you're looking for. I mean, minus the scoring aspect of it. But I'm not a huge fan of Lonzo Ball. I'd rather have his brother personally, LaMelo. But you know, but personally, I'm not a fan. But if Bulls fans want to clamor for it, I'm with you, Fred. I don't see I don't see the all in with him. I don't.
Let's go to you on this one, Keith. What do you think? Help me convince me that Lonzo is the answer.
Well, at the cost of being a Lonzo Ball bagger.
I call them ball boys. Are you one of the ball boys?
I guess I might be a ball boy. Shit. Never thought those words would come out of my mouth, but here we are. And I actually used to be in the same exact boat with you. I never really had interest in Lonzo. I never bought the hype. But if you're looking for a point guard to put next to Zach LaVine that fits his flaws and can also take the ball out of his hands in crucial situations to cut down on the traps, Lonzo's the guy. He's kind of like upgraded Sato 2.0, except he can actually play defense, and he takes volume three-point shots. It's not 40% on 1.5, and then you get him in Chicago, and he hits one every 15 attempts. So, you know, Lonzo is a better fit with Zach, and if the plan is to build around Zach, I think that's a move that you make. This team clearly needs a playmaker, and we need two-way guys. Lonzo does fit into that category. His playmaking is good enough to be classified as an elite skill on that side of the ball. And I don't think he's being used right in New Orleans for the majority of this season. So if you can take a cheap flyer on the guy that was once a number 2 pick, still has upside, hopefully uses that fuel of his brother being better than him to improve his game alongside Zach LaVine, screw it. Take a shot. What else are we really looking at coming into this free agency period?
Buzz.
I just have to say, I feel like I was getting, like, when you said that, like, convinced me why Lonzo Ball's coming. I was feeling like I was reprimanded. I was scared for a moment. I'm like, oh my God, like, how am I gonna do this? But no, I'm a huge Lonzo Ball guy. Keith and I actually talked about this on our pod, and at first he was like, "Huh, man, I'm telling you, I'm like watching Pelicans games." And you know, Fred, I honestly, after investing in NBA League Pass and I've been watching a ton of Pelicans and Hornets games. Absolute ton. And I watch how Lonzo's being used right now. And then I also go into the stats. And you know me, I'm on a big stat head where I use that for everything. But I look at consistent improvement throughout his career. He's in his 4th year here in the NBA. He's shooting the 3-point shot at 38% off of almost 8 attempts per game. So he's like hitting 3 of them, per game here. Free throw percentage is getting better. He's shooting 74% this year. Still not great, but he's getting better. He is playing decent ball. And I think that with how good he is in transition, his defensive gifts that he has, it masks a lot of Zach's issues. And it's a guy like Keith said, could take the ball out of Zach's hands and actually not only to benefit Zach, but whoever's around him. Project Pat. Get somebody like him opportunities, give Zach more off-ball opportunities where Zach's usage rate isn't going through the roof because he literally has to do everything. The way, I think that it would be a great pick, and I think it would be a good change of scenery for Lauri Markkanen too, if there was some sort of a switch up there, if that was at all possible. I'd like to have Zach LaVine here, so Lonzo Ball here. I'm totally for that. I think that it'd be a great acquisition. And I would really be interested in going into next season. I understand he's going into restricted free agency, but it'd be nice to see if it was worth paying here towards the last part of the last half of this season. If he was worth giving some dough to, see how he's paired with Zach. So I'm all for that. I really am.
I think Buzz and Keith just convinced me on Lonzo. Good job, guys.
Yes.
Congratulations, guys. I'm still a little bit on the fence here for him. I mean, you're right. You brought up those points that he has improved offensively. Every offensive metric for the most part is better. But his assists, rebounds are down, the steals are down. Regardless, he is up to 74% from the free throw line this year, which has raised his career percentage to 52%, which has always been the big issue with me. I don't trust the guy who can't hit free throws down the stretch on the court. If it's your point guard and he can't hit free throws, that's a big issue. And I noticed today watching the Boston game, he wasn't bringing the ball up the court. It was Ingram who was bringing the ball up the court. He'd go in the corner. So if he's such a elite playmaker, which I agree he is in the open court and on fast breaks, but he's not in the half court. I'm not giving up Kobe White for him. I'm not giving up Wendell Carter Jr. for him. Like, I'll take him, but it better be Sato, or it better be like a guy like that. One of our, definitely not that young, but Sato I'd give up for him. I'll try him in Lauri. They're both similar contracts, but I think Lauri's a better player just overall. I'm no longer a Lauri stan, but I just think he's a better player.
Well, Fred, and if you look at SVA's offense and how it's run, it's just, or SVG, I'm sorry, how it's run, it's different than what Lonzo has been in the past, which is why you're seeing numbers of his go down. His assists are down a little bit. He's not jumping the passing lanes anymore. They get into a lot of set offenses more than that run and gun type of offense that he was running before. So that's why you've seen, I think, some of the numbers dip. But what I will say, something that you can kind of take as a positive out of that, is that he's adapted to this new offense and he's still playing well. Pretty well in the role that he has been put in, where he is standing in the corner and he is almost hitting his 3-point shot at 40%. He's at 38%, 39%. So he was put into a new role where it's more of a point forward between Zion and Brandon Ingram. Those two guys are, just awesome players, very, very good players. Cornerstone players for a franchise. So they're getting more of the usage there. So the role that he was thrust in, he's excelling in. So I think that's that's just a good kind of takeaway, I think, from it.
just going to throw out 3 really quick questions, all you guys, and just answer yes or no if you're going to make the trade. You trade Kobe White for Lonzo Ball? Buzz, we'll start with you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Kobe White, would you trade Wendell Carter Jr. for Lonzo Ball?
Oh yeah.
And would you trade Larry Markkinen for Lonzo Ball?
Oh yeah. I mean, wait, all 3 of them at the same time?
No, just one straight up. Just imagine.
I don't know, Buzz. The way you were rolling there, you sounded like you'd be all right. Ship them all out.
Yeah, I was about to say Zach LaVine. I was worried to hear your answer.
Stop it. No, definitely Kobe White. I like Kobe. I don't want to give up on Kobe, and I've said that a million times in tweets. But yes.
I think it's absolutely insane that you would want to trade Kobe White in his second year on a rookie contract for a guy who's about to be a restricted free agent, who's probably going to get overpaid. Let's be honest, probably going to get 19, 20 million. It's mind-boggling, to me. Like, the only guy you would potentially think of trading is Wendell. If we're going to trade like a core guy, is Wendell Carter Jr. Not Wendell Carter Jr. Lauri Markkinen, because he's got the exact same situation.
Give me a clip of that. I want a clip of if we're trading anybody, it's Wendell.
No, you're not trading Wendell.
Give me a clip.
No, you're absolutely not trading Wendell Carter Jr. for Lonzo Ball. He's got another year on his contract before he's.
Fred, I like to bust your balls on it. I like Wendell, and I've said that on the podcast. I actually do.
You're not going to fool me. I listen to your show every week.
Don't you do that to me, Fred. I do. I like Wendell. I just don't think he's the truth, man.
Well, either is Lonzo Ball. I'm like,
no, he's not. But I would like to try something different that might benefit my star player.
Wendell Carter Jr. is very important to the success of this team going forward.
Yeah, so I've been told.
In terms of interior defense, you got to have that anchor. Every championship team has that. So if you get rid of him for Lonzo Ball, I'm sorry, Lonzo's not going to guard, whoever.
Joel Embiid, because neither is Wendell Carter.
I guess pretty good. Nobody's guarding Joel Embiid.
Yeah, I know that. I know.
Yeah. Let's go on to Keith on this one. So, Keith, one more time.
Kobe White? Hell no.
Wendell Carter?
Wendell Carter, I'd trade him, but I just think the center position in this league is not that valued. I think it's a position that you can find cheap value in. We've seen players like Alex Len come off waivers. That's a guy that can at least contribute in the starting lineup if you needed him to. So I just think you can find value at the center position for cheaper than you can a premium point guard that can play both ends of the floor. So, yeah, I'd trade him. I would also trade Lowry given their contract situations if the plan is to build around Zach LaVine. I can see where Lonzo benefits Zach more than Lowry does, although I would love to see Lauri Markkinen and Lonzo Ball on the same team as well, because Lowry hasn't had the justice of a real facilitator either. He's had Zach LaVine and Satoransky as a guy who's dependent on having somebody get him the ball to score. Not having a playmaker could affect you in that aspect. So
is Sato that much worse in the half court as a facilitator than Lonzo Ball?
I don't know, man.
I don't think he's that much worse.
I don't think he's worse. I just think that Lonzo has a lot more potential, and I think that Lonzo is better currently.
I like Lonzo's defense. We need a perimeter defender. Yeah. I like that about him. I like the fact that he's good in the open court as a facilitator. I just don't think he's great in the half court. And, if his free throw percentage continues to go up to 75%, I'll be far more amenable to this deal. And especially if it's for Sato, but I'm not trading any of those 3 young guys. Lauri, because of the contract situation, but I still want more because a little better. Paul, I'll give you the last word on this.
All right. Kobe White, no. Wendell Carter Jr., no. Lauri Markkinen, yes.
Okay. I think that's the correct answer to those last 3. So we'll go on to the next topic.
I want that UCLA backcourt so bad.
Let's go on to the last one.
Issue number 3, make the case for Ball. There is a large contingent of Lonzo Ball lovers in Bulls Nation. Many are arguing for the Bulls to trade considerable assets to acquire the services of Lonzo Ball to play point guard. He is a restricted free agent at the end of this season.
We'll start with you on this one, Buzz.
Yeah, I have to. I think that he deserves it. I think that he's balled out for it, and to see the fact that he is attempting to play on the other side of the court just as hard as he plays on the offensive side of the court. He's trying to play good defense. He's taking that, what game was that, boys, that he wanted to take? Who the heck was it? Was it Jerry Grant? That's who he wanted to guard?
Jeremy Grant.
Yeah, or Jeremy. I'm sorry,
Jerian.
Jerian. I missed Jerian. He was one of my guys there. But yeah, Jeremy Grant. He's trying to, guard Jeremy Grant. He wanted to take that, that challenge. And I just think that Zach LaVine's been playing. So, look what he's doing, guys. There's not a lot of other players that have ever done this ever. He's doing 28.5 points, 5 boards, 5.3 assists or whatever it is. He's like, what was he, 50, 40, like 88 right now? He's almost 50, 40, 90. Like guys, that's insane. Those are insane numbers. I don't care what team you're on. I don't care if the team is bad. Like that's and as you pointed out earlier, Fred, who's he playing with? Those are insane numbers. So I think he's earned it, man. And not only the All-Star nod, but the contract. And I hope that it goes that route. I really do. I would like to see Zach here for the long haul. I think that he's 25 years old. I think that he's a great player. And I have seen him ascend his game every year he's been here, even with incompetence as a head coach. He has just gotten better and better.
Before we go to Paul, I got to go back to a statement you made. Jerry and Grant's one of your guys?
Yeah,
you know why? He was a bum. No.
Yeah, you know why I liked him? You know why I liked him, Fred? Because he's Horace's nephew, and I just
okay.
I like him.
That's a good reason, I guess.
But that was before he laced up the shoes for us. Because
that was before the Boston series.
Exactly, Keith. We went from Rondo in that Boston series to Jerry and Grant. It's like a Sears Tower drop.
It was at the absolute worst.
I'll never forgive him for that. But
I will say his brother is balling for sure. Jeremy Grant's balling. Very good player.
No, I didn't know they were brothers. Really. Anyhow.
Yeah.
Paul, we'll go to you on this one. Is he worthy of a max extension?
Absolutely. You have a guy in Zach LaVine who's, just like Buzz said, has improved, and why would you not want to reward a guy who, for lack of been loyal, been a good soldier outside of the boiling stuff? He hasn't really complained, and the guy just improved and will continue to improve. Is on the verge of being a superstar in this league. You don't want to be in a situation where now you're going to be like Jimmy Butler. Keep Zach around, build around him. Yes, give him a max contract.
Keith.
Yeah, if you're the Chicago Bulls, you really don't have any better options. Any better option either comes from Zach attracting somebody to come join him, or trading Zach LaVine up a tier for somebody you feel is better than him. But you can't do that without paying the guy. If he's not under contract, you can't trade him. So I don't see any pathway, unless you get some crazy offer to trade him at this deadline, that you don't extend Zach LaVine this offseason.
I had an interview with Darnell Mayberry, and he brought up a point that he doesn't believe. He gave a couple, I thought, some interesting reasons why, that the Bulls haven't fully committed to Zach LaVine, and that it is possible he could be traded. And, I think if that happens, you need to trade him at the trade deadline. Yeah, because every day goes on, I think he becomes less valuable as you go to next season. He's still extremely valuable, especially makes an all-star team. I was trying to think, well, who would take him? And one of them is absolutely the Knicks. The Knicks would give up R.J. Barrett and probably a treasure trove of number 1 picks, I imagine, for Zach LaVine. Would you guys feel comfortable about that, or happy about taking R.J. Barrett and a bunch of number 1 picks from the Knicks for Zach LaVine?
I don't really want to see Zach LaVine 3 times in a year, to be honest with you, after we gave up on him and traded him. But it would make very awesome TV to hear Tibbs yelling at him, work on the defensive end. I think that would be absolutely fantastic. But,
and Zach averaging 46 minutes a game, probably, right, 47.
I don't want to move him, though, Fred. I really don't. I just think –
I don't either.
I think that – I do like R.J. Barrett. I think that he could be a good player, but I don't want to move him. And in this Eastern Conference, just like you said, Fred, you put Zach LaVine there with some of the young talent that is kind of on the Knicks. They don't have a ton of great talent, but if R.J. Barrett's gone, but they got some talent over there. Those picks will suck. They're going to be in the playoffs. It's not going to – you're not really getting much back there. First-round picks are great, and you can package them. You can do something with them, but I'd rather keep Zach. I think that Zach earned that right. I think he earned the right to put the freaking Bulls jersey on and get a max contract here, and hopefully they could build around him.
Could you see though the Knicks making that deal?
Well, I could see Tibbs doing anything. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think so.
Keith, do you agree?
I mean, Tibbs would definitely do it. What did he trade for 1 year of Jimmy Butler before Jimmy said, "Get me the hell out of here. I'm tired of playing 40 minutes without a max contract guarantee. This guy's going to ruin my career. Let me get the hell out of here." I mean, the Knicks would do it if I'm the Bulls. You're not in the same situation you were when you traded Jimmy Butler. You don't have Dwayne Wade's contract clogging up your books where you can't do anything. You don't feel like you're being forced into something that you don't want to do. Zach doesn't need a supermax. Zach's going to get a rookie scale max contract. Not even, it won't be a rookie scale. It will be a veteran scale at this point. Mm-hmm. But there's no better path than Zach. RJ's an intriguing piece, and maybe he's as good or close to as good as Zach down the road. But nothing this front office has done, at least, in Denver. And Ake obviously wasn't calling the full shots there, but nothing tells me they're going to trade out of a good player to get worse to try to get better.
Paul?
I definitely agree with that. I mean, I of course, Tom Thibodeau would do it, but if I'm the Bulls, there's nobody on the Knicks that's even remotely close to the skill level of a Zach LaVine. So no, if I had my pick, Zach would be a Bull for the next 5-10 years. And quick question. What is the max? Is it 5 and 150?
So each team is allowed to offer up to 2 players a 5-year contract, and it has to be a player that they have the bird rights of. I believe Zach's is about 150, so I think we'll come to around like 150 to 100. No, not 170, around 150 mil total over 5 years, somewhere in that ballpark. Which I've seen people saying a penny over 25 is ridiculous, and my thinking is once you get to 25, what the hell's the extra 5 if you can't, supplant that somewhere else on the roster? Is the guy worth having anyway?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I don't want to see Zach go. Believe me, I wouldn't make that trade. But if Arturis made the decision that the Bulls would be better in the long run, keeping Laurie and Kobe, I could potentially see him pulling 3 number ones, 4 number ones, and RJ Barrett and Obi Toppin for Zach LaVine. And let's say, one other veteran, let's say, that'd be one I would potentially consider, because I don't think the Knicks are going to be, even with making that trade, an elite team. It's possible. I think they could still be in the lottery. So it's a really tough decision. I don't want to see him trade Zach LaVine. I agree. We should build around Zach, but it's not our decision. If Arturis has made that decision that Zach is not in the future, and the comments from Darnell Mayberry today have really given me pause. I think that could be a possibility. That's one guy that you would be able to fleece.
Is Darnell saying that he's hearing murmurs, or what? Is it speculation on his point?
He said it seems how Fred said that it just doesn't seem like they've decided to marry. They haven't hitched their wagon to him. Is that what you're saying?
No. Darnell said Billy Donovan, has a really sly way of doing it, but in post-game interviews, he's been extremely critical of Zach, and he's had kid gloves with other players. And he thinks that that's an indication that the organization, he believes they work together and, hand in hand, that it's an indication that, they're very, pro Laurie and maybe not as big of a believer in Zach. It definitely was a case to start the year. He brought up examples in preseason of this happening. I think Zach's play has probably potentially been so, that he's done so well that could have mitigated this potential issue. But, who knows? Maybe that's true. Joe Cowley has a lot of – if you ask Joe Cowley, I think he would probably want to do do that trade, probably, right?
I get to talk to Joe tomorrow, so
I can't wait for that.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Tuesday after 2 days from now.
Yeah, why don't you guys tell everybody about this, because I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Joe Cowley and Keith and Buzz on one of the shows coming up. Let's hear about this as we wrap it up.
Yeah, so Tuesday at 5 p.m. live on the Bulls on Tap Twitter, the On Tap Sportsnet YouTube, and On Tap Sportsnet Facebook, we will be talking to Joe Colley live, broadcasted live, so everybody can see it as we're recording the podcast. And basically, we're just going to talk about a little bit about him covering the team. He seems like a nice guy. I know that he's got a Twitter. He's got a Twitter personality on him. He's got which is cool and fine and dandy and everything like that. But he is taking the time to come and join us. So I mean, he's seems like an all right guy.
Sometimes you poke the bear and he has a meal with you instead of eating you. But we'll see how that goes.
That's true.
We'll see how that goes. So we're going to ask him about his opinions on Thibodeau. We're going to ask him his opinions on Zach LaVine as well, because Joe's been a very outspoken guy. Does not like having Zach around, and or not that he doesn't like having him around. He does not want to pay him max money. I don't want to put words in Joe's mouth. He does not want to pay him max money. He is okay with keeping Zach, but not for a max contract. So we're very excited to talk to him.
Well, I'm looking really forward to watching that, guys. And then
I want to touch a little bit more on what you said about what Darnell said, though, because I found that interesting. And I could see it because I know during the offseason, I really thought they were going to move Zach. I thought it was the Butler 2-year situation. It's, poop on the powder, get the hell off of it in terms of what they were going to do with him. And they decided to evaluate. And at this point, that looks like the right decision for this season. He's taken an uptick, and maybe you increased his trade value a little bit heading into this deadline for maybe even his old team, the Nuggets. Do you think that they say, hey, would you want Jamal Murray? He gave him a big contract that he doesn't necessarily, deserve at this point. He had his bubble performance, but Zach LaVine might be an upgrade over Murray for Jokic, who looks like he needs some help. Maybe you get Michael Porter back from them. Maybe they send rookies instead of Murray, and you got Murray, LaVine, and Jokic. So there's a lot of teams that could use Zach. And you saying that Darnell gets the vibe that they're not married to it, and Joe sticking pretty heavy on his trade Zach points. Maybe the vibes around the front office aren't as clear-cut as it is for fans in this Zach movement.
Well, you definitely hit on one of the three teams I think it could happen with. I mean, Denver has been a complete disappointment this year despite the incredible play of Jokic. I think that's a team that would be looking to make a move, and Michael Porter Jr. and draft picks might get it done, right? I mean, that'd be an attractive – if we have to trade Zach, if our tourist is saying, I need to trade Zach, Michael Porter and draft picks is something I would be very interested in. I can't think of many potential deals out there.
Man, I was really into drafting Michael Porter Jr. I wish we would have done that.
I'm going to get off this show and go play with the trade machine now because you got my mind doing crazy stuff.
Paul, any comments on any other teams that you can think of that you'd want to trade Zach LaVine to?
No, I think the only one that I'm like you, Fred. The Denver option is intriguing. Maybe Gary Harris, Michael Porter Jr. and some picks. I would definitely consider that.
I gotta say, I still think Ben Simmons. I think Zach LaVine's a better fit than Ben Simmons is with Joel Embiid, just simply because he's a better outside shooter. And I think Simmons in the playoffs, it's not going to work. You need outside shooting, and Simmons has continually been relegated to, a bizarre position at the end of these games. I don't know. I really love to see where that goes.
I thought Dallas for Zach too, man.
Yeah, but they got nothing.
They got nothing to offer though. They just got nothing to offer.
Right?
Could you imagine him with Luka and KP? Holy shit!
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they got nothing I want though. Guys, let's wrap this up. Thanks again for joining that call to end of the meeting of the Knights of the Roundball Table. Thanks again for jumping on. Where can everybody find you? We'll start out with you, Buzz.
You find me on Twitter at Buzz on Tap. You can find Goose's or Keith and I's podcast at Bulls on Tap on Twitter as well, and on tapsportsnet.com for our literature content, and all of our podcasts are over there covering every Chicago major team. And if you don't have anything going on, 5 p.m. Tuesday, come join us with Joe Colley live.
Definitely looking forward to that. Big fan of everything you do. Paul, how about you?
You can find me on Twitter at PaulConnor33.
All right. Great talking to you guys today. I call an end to the meeting. Special thanks to Steve Johnson, our fearless producer. Thanks a lot, and have a great week.